Hello. Today's objective is the same that we were doing the week before we had spring break. We're still looking at poetry. The objective is 3.9b. We will analyze a variety of poems by identifying the rhyme scheme, structural elements, and sound devices such as onomatopoeia and imagery. Just to go backwards a little bit here, I wanted to go over the difference between narrative poem and a lyrical poem because that's going to be one of my questions. Narrative poem tells a story. It could be short, it could be long, but it tells a story. There's the example of the greedy dog that we read in class, and it has a theme, a lesson to be learned at the end. The dog needed to learn not to be so greedy because when he saw his reflection in the water with his bone in his mouth, he thought it was another dog with a bigger bone. So he jumps in the water, loses his bone, and he feels silly. If a dog can do as much. A lyrical poem does not tell a story. It's just usually short. It feels like a song. It does have rhyme and rhythm, and it only expresses the speaker's feelings about something. Remember, the speaker is the person who's telling the story, kind of like the narrative, but not always. Sometimes the speaker is a person who's actually in the poem. Just don't get speaker confused with author. For example, this could be told from the perspective of the dog. The dog would be the speaker. That's not the case here. It's actually a narrative. A narrator telling the story. But just know, narrative poem tells a story. Lyrical poem expresses feelings, does not tell a story. It could be a poem about ice cream. I like ice cream, it's so great. I like ice cream, chocolate, vanilla. That would be a lyrical poem, only that didn't have any rhyme in it. We did go over imagery, of course. We will go in it in class, so it's not necessary that I cover it now. Just remember that it's words that the author uses to appeal to your five senses. And I will read the poem that you're going to be reading and answering questions about. Of course, I'll go over this in class too. Caballo is in there. Horse, caballero, caballera. Caballero es un hombre que anda en caballos. Caballera es una mujer que anda en caballo. Cowboys, you could say. Of course, the setting is going to be long ago when people didn't have cars. They had to ride around on horses, as you can see in this picture. It's out in the country or campo. There's no cars or calles. It says, this is The Race by Jennifer Trujillo. She rode a horse named Fina when women didn't ride. They galloped around the mountain, her legs on Fina's side. She let her hair down from its bun and let it whip and fly. She laughed and sang and whooped out loud, and there she wasn't shy. Up there she wasn't shy. One day Great-Grandma found her out and planned to stop it all. But down in town they'd heard some news. They told her of a call for caballeros from the highs and lows to race their fancy caballos to try and win the rose. It's a lot of words that rhyme there. One of my question is, which lines in each stanza rhyme? You do better looking at the first stanza here and the second stanza, because in the last stanza we have every word rhyming, which is not what we find in the other stanzas. Abuela looked at Fina, a twinkle in her eye. Abuela said, "Let's enter. This race deserves a try." At dawn she was the only girl, but didn't even care. She came to meet the challenge, and the horse was waiting there. They swept across the finish line, much faster than the rest. She flung her hat without surprise. She'd always done her best. Fina shook her mane and stomped. Abuela flashed a smile. She sniffed the rose and trotted off in caballera style. So again, your questions will be, is this a lyrical or a narrative poem? And please explain how you know. Don't just put lyrical poem or just narrative poem, please explain how you know. Who is the speaker in this poem? That is something you have to infer. Doesn't tell us. What is the onomatopoeia that the author uses in the second stanza of the poem? How does this word help the reader to hear what is happening in the poem? So again, the second stanza would be this one. Which reminds me, I need to go over onomatopoeia. Who is Fina in the poem? That's an easy question there. Then I ask you to write a summary for this poem using at least 3 sentences. So you're going to write 3 sentences to tell me what is this poem about. What happens at the beginning, middle, and end. What could be a possible theme for this poem? What lesson can the learn from the poem? Remember theme and the dog was the greedy dog one. He needed to learn not to be so greedy. What could we learn from this poem? Or what do you think the other people learned from the poem? When Grandma wins the race. And that is all. I might add a few questions in there about imagery, since that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. But I will see you in class. Thank you for listening to the video.